This is a mini educator. We can see right now that it is not turned on because the face of the remote, this is going to be the remote or the transmitter, I will always call it the remote, is not showing any numbers. If it is blank, it is turned off or it's out of batteries. This is the collar or the receiver. I will always call it your collar or your e-collar. If it is not flashing green periodically, usually it's every 30 seconds, it is turned off. So I don't go by the collar itself to tell if it's turned on. I'll show you that in a second. But you can see here we have 2 red dots. We're gonna match these dots up together and you'll see that my collar lights up green and it's gonna start to flash green. Now we can tell that the collar is turned on. The remote is still off. So we're gonna turn it around and we're gonna look at these 2 buttons. This button changes settings that you do not need to change. Don't worry about it, don't touch it. This button turns the collar on and off, and it also has a flashlight setting. So we're going to hold this on until it says on, or it's going to show a number. If this is lit up, your remote is on. If this is flashing, your collar is on. However, an easier way to tell that is to look at your vibrate button. This button that says T, think T as in test. Every single time you turn your collar on, put it on your dog, or if you're going to let your dog off leash, put your hand on the collar, press T, you're going to feel it vibrate. You can do this on your dog's neck unless I tell you otherwise. Most dogs that I've trained become very desensitized to this. To turn your collar off, you're gonna do the same thing. Collar, remote. I will say you don't have to turn your collar off. Putting it on the charger will do that. Now, here's something that happens a lot. People go to turn the collar on and they kind of twitch the collar away, the remote away from the collar. So I turn it on, move my hand a little bit. You can see the red light. That means I turned it off at the same time. That is why we are always, before we put our collar on our dog, going to test. This sounds, I'm gonna drill this into your brain, but the amount of times I have shown up to a lesson and a dog's collar isn't on and we lose out on good learning opportunities is just too high to count. Now, the other parts of the collar to be aware of, these are your contact points. These need to touch your dog's skin in order to work. Both of them do. If you have a longer haired dog, I might change them out for you. This is where the charger goes into the collar. And if we just short press this button that we use to turn the remote on, we'll get a flashing light, and then short press it again, and we'll get a flashlight. If you want to use your flashlight, put it face down on your dog's neck so the dog's head doesn't block the light and you can actually see. Now, this, again, you don't need to touch. It changes your settings. Your face of your collar should have a flashing 1D. That means it's hooked up to one dog's collar, and it should say MC around the number. That stands for the setting. It stands for multi-continuous. That's the setting that your collar should be on unless we decide otherwise. If you want to change that setting, you'll cycle through with this. If one of these letters goes away, a lot of times that will change what these buttons do. It doesn't change it in a big way, but it does change what the buttons do. So if you happen to find that one of these letters disappears, it's because when you were turning your remote on, you held this down instead of this. So you're going to want to hold it down until it cycles through and you see MC again. And one more thing, if we want to lock the level, which I will never recommend that you do, in the 10 years that I've been using these collars, I have never moved this around in my pocket. Every now and then I'll move it around unintentionally, but you need to be able to move this readily. Only reason I tell you this is because a lot of people call me, they're like, hey, I can't change my level, the number won't move. It's because you accidentally held this down at some point. Hold it down again. You'll see that if you hold down and lock your number, and then you turn the dial, once you unlock it, it will change levels as you get used to this. When your dog first comes home, I'm going to have you use your collar very minimally. What I want you to focus on is make sure you are turning your collar on, putting it on your dog, making sure it's on, and then practice when you're not working with your dog. If you're right-handed, hopefully you are. If you're left-handed, talk to me. Holding your remote like this. So I've got 2 fingers here, thumb here, and I can move this around pretty quickly. You'll get to the point where you can use your remote without looking at it. There's not a huge difference, and we'll talk about this later. After a dog is fully trained, that you don't need to use their working level a whole lot. If I'm like, oh shoot, there's a deer, I'm just gonna go like this in my pocket. Or my dog seems to be responding more to the collar than I'd like, gonna go like this, and we're just gonna feel it out. You'll get used to it. Don't get too liberal about feeling it out yet, but something to know, and practice this so your muscle memory improves. This will feel very weird, and like it's not something you can do at first, but if you practice this a lot, it becomes really easy. And then what I also want you to do is make sure every time you pick up your remote, your fingers end up here. That way, when your remote is in your pocket, you can just go, boop, got it. One other thing to note, these are waterproof if these stay closed. So make a habit of closing these when you put them on your dog. One of them is water resistant, one's waterproof. They do have warranties, so if anything happens, let me know. For about 2 years, I believe, and they're also fairly inexpensive to replace. To charge your collar, you are going to put this piece in the wall. I'm gonna put it in my wall. I'm sure you have a wall at home. And then you have two things right here. You're gonna put one in here, and then one in here. These are two separate systems. If you charge your collar but not your remote, or your remote but not your collar, you're gonna be out of luck. These will hold a charge for about 2 days and 1 night. You will want to charge it every single night, so they stay charged and you stay in the habit, and these are off your dog at night. Win-win. Make good habits early, even when you don't need them. Okay, now for the important part. Just kidding, I cannot stress enough how much knowing how to turn on your collar is the important part. Oh, okay, our collar's on. We've tested it. Now we're ready to use it on our dog. We're gonna make sure it's snug, not too tight, but the contact points are touching your dog, and we're at a level that's appropriate for their training. Now, what do these fancy buttons mean? Black S, if you're set on momentary continuous, as you should be, black S is going to be momentary. Even if I hold it down, it's only going to stim for 1/10 of a second. If I tell you tap, 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 this is usually what I'm asking you to do. Red S is continuous. That means if I hold it down, it's going to keep stimming for, I believe it times out within 30 seconds. We will never need to do this for 30 whole seconds. If you're doing that, you're doing something way wrong. And then these two buttons, if you hold both at the same time, factory setting is that it goes up by 5. After you're familiar with the remote, usually during your second follow-up lesson or your first, I will reset this for you to a more meaningful number. So it's going to jump up usually about 20 to 40 levels, depending on your dog. That's going to be a correction level. You should not be jumping on the counters, you should not be chasing after deer, you should not be blowing off your recall. We're jumping up from a, hey, hello, hey, earth the doggy, to absolutely not, do not do that, change your behavior right now. But initially it will be set 5 levels above, which are that's a pretty inconsequential amount of levels for most dogs. It's going to be set that way because if you accidentally press it, or say you're still learning how to use your collar, you go Fido come, hold down, and well, you're gonna have to tap if you're on this setting. They start coming to you, you forget to stop tapping. We're not correcting your dog heavily when it's not fair. That's why I don't have you use the collar very heavily when your dog comes home. I want your dog to have a good experience, and I want their training to be fair. So while you're getting used to using the collar, we're focusing less on training and more on training you. During the first several days and the first few weeks that your dog is home, we should be in touch regularly. No question is too small. I want to hear from you because your dog's behavior will change every single day, and they will act differently at home versus when they do with me. And I want to hear from you through that process. But if you have questions specifically about your collar, and maybe it's outside of business hours or you can't get a hold of me, here is the website for the Collars customer service. They are wonderful. One thing to keep in mind is that you do need to go to ecollar.com to reach them or find their website. There is another website that is similar, but they are a third party.